Double stack 1911s have become all the rage over the last couple years. For me, it was falling in love with the BUL Armory SAS2 TAC 4 1/4 inch, this guy here that I've been carrying in the cooler months, and the SAS2 Ultralight 3 1/4 inch that I carried in the warmer months. Now, some people have said, well, this stuff's been around for a while, it's really nothing new, and here's some great evidence of that. This is a 4.3 inch ported double stack 1911 with a polymer grip from 1999 or the year 2000. We're going to take a trip back in time and take a look at what was cool then with the BUL M-5 Jet. Kind of a different tabletop review and field strip coming up next on GBGuns. Now before we get too into it, yes, this video is sponsored by the patrons. Their funding helps me grab stuff like this when I see it available. I bought this from Atlantic Firearms. They had it for about $1,000, which is pretty fair for most modern guns of this build. However, this one is old enough to drink, old enough to vote twice if it leans that way. An interesting setup with massive ports in the barrel. In fact, maybe if I can get the camera down in there, you can actually see the rifling through these ports. I don't think the camera's going to play for us. Sorry about that. Well, you have to believe me. It's pretty impressive. Now, I knew that double stack 1911s were nothing new. They've been around for quite some time. In fact, it was about 8 years ago they got to experience this bad boy, the SPS Pantera. This is more of a competition-based model. Love this thing. Incredible gun, but they are super rare. Very difficult to get your hands on. So when they became a little more mainstream and started being more than just competition shooters enjoying the double stack 1911s and more than just competition oriented builds, that's when I got excited. So what is this BUL? Near as I can tell, this BUL, not quite the same company name as BUL Armory. There was another name that I'm drawing a blank on off the top of my head. Was around mid-90s to late 90s. This particular design model was produced in 99 and 2000, and that's it. And the Jet nomenclature is because it's got a ported barrel. The M5 is the model, and there's some parts about it that are kind of cool and very different from today, and there's some stuff that is going to look awfully familiar to you. And I just wanted to share it with you because it's kind of an interesting twist on what we see today. Now, it was described online as having a 4.3 inch barrel, whereas the SAS2 TAC next to it is a 4 1/4 inch barrel. And if I line these up, hoping the camera angle doesn't betray me here and make it look incorrect, I really can't tell a difference, but then again, it's a really tiny difference in barrel length. I'm also curious, before we dive into the insides of this thing, about weight. Now, for reference, the closest thing, and keeping with the same kind of family, my BUL Armory SAS2 TAC 4 1/4, no magazine, is 1 pound, 10.3 ounces. This BUL M-5 Jet, 1 pound, 13.7 ounces. And I think I know why there's such a difference, even though we're missing hunks of metal out of the slide and barrel. On to the parts of the tabletop that you guys are used to. Shown clear. And do we get magazine ejection or release? Notice the magazine protrudes a little bit here. It does on the TAC as well, but the mag well covers that. In fact, it appears that the magazines from my modern TAC do fit in this. And you can hear it. It's kicked. It's popping just a little bit. But this old magazine, which when compared with a new generation magazine, looks almost identical, minus no witness windows on the back, and our overall shape and size is the same. If I put the modern one in there, it slides in better for one and does not give us kick. So it'll be interesting. I'll take this with me to the range, see if it runs in the gun. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's come in and take a closer look. You notice right off the bat, no accessory rail. That was still not quite a thing. hadn't really caught on as mandatory. We do have front serrations, and I remember when getting front serrations on pistols was a big deal, even in the 2010s. I mean, heck, it took Glock how long to get to those? It is bushingless, which it's using a BUL barrel. Makes sense. That's what we've seen on the other BULs. We have a blacked out front sight post, which I'm not a fan of. I do not like the black on black sights. However, I totally understand it with ports, because if anything you put up there can easily get melted. Slided frame, it's pretty tight. It's a little bit of wiggle, but it's also a 23-year-old gun. No serrations on the front of the trigger guard. You notice that we hadn't yet gotten into the trend of the double undercut. In fact, while there is some relief here, it is not nearly as rounded and beveled as we have on today's BUL armories. While we're down here, let's do some trigger talk. This impressed me. I'll make sure I have the grip safety depressed. I notice the grip safety requires a little more force on this one than it does on my others. Take up to a wall. Short break. And this reset is ridiculous. There it is. Went past it. Very, very quick trigger, which should be a lot of fun on the range, especially combined with those ports, if the ports do a good job. Texturing, you can see we've got checkering kind of mimicking a 1911 grip. It's not particularly sharp, but this is also a well-worn gun. You may see some dark spots in here. That's not hand goober stuff. I went through and cleaned it all and got the skin out of the back of the grip safety, things like that. So I'm assuming most of this looks like holster wear, especially that it's shined more on that side. I'm guessing this gun is well used. We do have fine checkering on the front strap. I did not bother cleaning all that out. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. We have a little bit of beveling, you'll notice, from different angles on the mag well. A polymer mainspring housing inserted in here, and a large grip safety. These wings extending on the side is something that's quite different, and you can see that modern guns do not have that. The shine polish on this safety is also one thing that makes me think that this had a lot of holster use, but it's still very positive. Clean click into and out of place. Side to frame fit in the back. We got a little bit of side to side. Not bad, still better than some factory new guns I've handled, and our barrel is locked up nice and tight. Nothing on the right side of the gun, which leaves kind of this awkward naked square gap here. It's funny, for as many people as complain about ambi safeties or wide controls on all other guns, people always want it on 1911s, and you can see that weird gap area. That would look the same. It just looks like something's missing here because we've become so accustomed to all guns having ambi safeties. Next, we'll field strip this and take a look inside the gun. This comes apart not too different from most 1911s out there. We want to pull back on a round cut until it's over the slide stop, slide release, and then push on the pin from the other side. I like the non-marring. It's that Real Avid pistol tool I recently posted about to get the slide off. And here in the frame is one of the interesting differences. This appears to me to be a steel chassis inside of the polymer, and just looking at some of the texture, and I did take this apart once before to clean it up, it looks like it might be cast, but there's not a whole lot of stresses that happen down in here, so I don't think it matters. We'll find out when we get to the range for sure. Before the angry comments start about me taking the slide off without doing the bushing, that's because there's no bushing, and it's a folding guide rod. So you need a special tool, which I had to make a new one. This is a paper clip. I lost my old one. There's a hole in the guide rod. You probably see there. You got to slip the clip in there to keep the recoil assembly bound, and then slide it all out through backwards. I did it with the slide off the frame because while this is on the frame, since the hole is oriented vertically, up and down like this, there's no room to get a paperclip in there. So with it out, compress, and drop in our paperclip like so. Now we can slide all of this whole mess out. See the recoil assembly. Knock down our lug and bring the barrel out the front as we normally would. Looking inside the slide, this thing looks to be in pretty good shape. I did give it a wipe down and quick lube. I just wanted to check the thing, make sure it was safe to begin with. And there's our barrel. Camera's still not going to let you guys see the rifling, but it's a neat trick. And nicely polished ramp. Check for chamber support, as always. I'm going to do that using some Liberty Civil Defense. This is nickel plated, which does aid in reducing friction, but it also doesn't corrode. Drop that in for the plunk. Make sure it can rotate freely, and the camera stays in focus. The camera stays in focus. Come on, technology. There we go. Give you a look. We have a little bit of unsupported underneath the bottom there. It's pretty common on 1911s, but otherwise looks pretty good, and the round drops out nicely. So that chamber checks out. When I take this thing to the range, you can bet I'm going to do my standard battery of tests. I'm just curious to see how it performs. I mean, we've shot plenty of much older firearms. However, to have something like this, it's an interesting sensation or experience, I guess you could say, since we've known that double stack 1911s aren't anything new. However, when's the last time you saw one that was 23 years old, that was ported, and the polymer and all that kind of stuff that I think is pretty cool about this. So you're going to see absolute first shots on camera. We'll see full mag +1 with this old mag. I'll test to see if it runs with my newer BUL Armory mags. Then we'll of course do what's for dinner, see what it eats, which will be interesting to sense what does best with those ports. You might remember when the Humble Marksman came out for a visit and we shot his Staccato XC, it was the PCC ammo that had the greatest impact. Excuse my fumbling, it's really hard to do while looking through a camera. We'll take it over to the spinner. I might chrono it to see how much velocity we're losing out of that, and do all of that comparing it to the 4 1/4 modern inch, and then of course practical accuracy and maybe one of those speed drills. I'm thinking this video will come out by the time you've already seen our Mark 23 Excalibur videos where I did a speed control test, and curious to hear what you guys think of that test. If you think it works. I was looking for something that was quick, that I wasn't a master at, and only doing enough iterations to get raw sensations, not to do repeated practice. You didn't need to see how I've learned to shoot the thing well. You need to see what the raw impression is. So I think comparing these two might make for an interesting bit. I don't know if Atlantic Firearms will still have any of these by the time you see this video, but and this is, once again, as always, not a sponsored video. I paid for this. I don't even think they know that I got it. However, Atlantic Firearms is a company that, as long as I can remember, as long as I've been back in the US, that has been where I go to dream and drool over different guns. Stuff that's not just the same old, same old. They've added some over the years of your basic common fare. However, their specialty is less common things, unique things, interesting things, particularly military rifles usually. But they recently posted this, and I had to grab one. Neat piece of history. It'll be interesting to see how performance has or has not changed in the 2 decades between these two models from, I'm assuming, the same folks. I haven't confirmed yet that the old BUL and the new BUL Armory had any carryovers, I guess you could say, in staff and personnel. And even if they have, it'll be interesting to see what the differences have been aside from just time. Cool piece, collector piece to those who care. Otherwise, just an indicator of how much time has changed and what BUL was doing back then. Thanks for watching.